Do you love from your heart, or do you love from a place of fear? Are you connected to people because they compliment you, or because you are connecting to them because of fear of loneliness? What is the real connection, and what is the source that keeps your relationship dynamics alive? Hi, my name is Evette Rose, author and founder of Metaphysical Anatomy, which is a book and an in-depth guide to helping you to understand the emotional body and the hidden messages. And welcome to today's topic, which is the fears that bind us. Now, when I say this, I mean it in the sense of how we bond together because of collective fears that we share with each other. Now, when you look at the history of fear, it has been present since the beginning of time. And that means fear of not surviving has been driven lifelong patterns, and it's been continuously evolving and changing and growing in such a diverse way that the nature of fear serves one purpose, and that is to stay alive. As humans with a complex emotional brain, fear has become a lot more colorful than just being about fear of not surviving. Now, we have fears about almost everything in life. Now, generational fear has also grown out of control and been passed down from generation to generation. Now, fear also remains a fear, right? If a solution of the fear is not given and not passed down, the fear remains and it continues to stay in the DNA lineage. So now all fears remain in our emotional body, right? And they will remain there and be passed down to our future generations unless we break this cycle by healing it ourselves. And these fears are then also, of course, shaped by society. It's shaped by cultures. It's also shaped by social circles and family dynamics. Now, fears are also controlled and stopped, for example, when a generation took action and dealt with it and overcame the fear, which then will positively affect the DNA lineage. And this makes you more resilient to fears. So you're wondering why some people are resilient and why some others are not? That is why. Now, within every set of dynamics between people, fear exists. It thrives and it continues to grow because our lives are built and designed around fear in order to try actually and to avoid it. Now, you have to energize the fear to continuously stay aware of it, right? To stay in the state of being connected to it as well. Now, that is where you lose energy. You lose your freedom. You lose your happiness. And you lose your quality of life. Now, some of the strongest bonds that we, for example, have with people are based on shared fears. We bond over our fears as we are able to relate to someone who can understand the fear that we are experiencing, right? It feels less adequate when you can connect to someone who can relate to and understand you. Now, you form an instant connection, and also you are now bonded over similar wounds that you also share together. And it creates a connection where there, for example, was disconnection before. It's fulfilling a deep lack. Now, it also creates a feeling of belonging. Right? This can also be the strongest friendship and also the hardest one to let go of, especially when the fears that bonded you together changes for one of you. Now, when this happens, there's a 50% chance that you could start to feel incompatible. Now, you might not always be aware of it straight away. And what you actually could feel is like a feeling that something is different, something is off, or just not quite the way that it used to be. Now, the frequency alignment between you and this person has shifted. And also, just quickly here, on a side note, if you are challenged with fears, then I would highly recommend go to my free online healing course at healingyourfears.com. Now, just quickly, just while it was on my mind. Now, coming back to what I was saying, you will always grow, heal, and change. And then also others around you, also, for example, who have bonded with you over old wounds, don't always necessarily heal with you or at the same pace. And you will start to feel or could start to feel very dragged down by their state of stuckness with their fears that you once shared together in the past. You see, so you will most likely sabotage your progress and your healing journey as you have a fear of being isolated and you have a fear of being alone. And then you will also have a fear of rejecting others and being rejected. So you could try to continue to play small in your life, because if you were to supersede over someone else's wound, you would make them feel inadequate, right? You will make them feel that there's something with them that, for example, that's wrong, because they're not moving to the next stage or place with you where you are now moving to. Now, this level of change can create even more fear in the person that you are bonded with, as they can feel that you're changing, right? Subconsciously. And they need you to stay the way that you are so that they can relate to you, right? And feel connected to you. Now, the more there is a disconnection, the more you will inadvertently start to trigger their fear of change, right? Their fear of letting go of the familiar fear itself. And they might reject you, right? They might reject you with a subconscious hope that you don't change, right? Because they are now emotionally invested in you, in living with certain fears, because this is what binds you to them and them to you. So some people need you to be and to stay as you are because of the emotional investment that they have in you being fear-based with them. Because if you change, you shake up the foundation, right? You shake up the foundation that their perceived security is based on. Now, we will also find security in people and in circumstances that we can relate to, because when we can relate to someone, we feel connected, right? We feel like we are part of a community, which automatically creates a feeling of acceptance and togetherness, which is what we all want deep down. Now, when you feel accepted, you will feel less defected. So, because now when you are not accepted, you will feel that there is something wrong with you and that no one sees your value. No one sees your worth. And let's be honest, right? It's not the most empowering feeling. And I remember that when I was in school, for example, I played with a group of friends and we all connected with each other. We kind of felt like the odd group out in the school, right? Believe it or not, I was quite a nerd. And that is what connected us together, right? And in a way, very strongly actually, we found comfort in each other and we stood by each other. Then one day, I was actually promoted to as one of the school leaders, also called the school captain, as we called it back in the days. And they would only pick 10 kids from a group of 80. So I was one of the 10. Now, I remember that after that announcement, I was so happy. And I was actually so surprised by this, because the school actually voted who they wanted to have as the school leaders. And I was one of them. And the next day when I went back to school and it was break time, I walked over to my friends and one of them actually stood up and said, "We are not good enough for you anymore. You have to go play with the other school cool leaders now." I was in shock. It shook my entire being, as they were the only kids in the school that I knew, right? They were the only kids in the school that I really truly could relate to. Now, it was in that moment, right? In that moment that I wanted to throw my badge of honor and my new role away, right? Just so that I could be accepted back into this group and to feel the familiarity of feeling like I belong with a group of people again that I can relate to. Now, I didn't throw my badge away and it was a tough adjustment, but I did it. Now, another powerful example is when you look at two people who are overweight. Both have insecurities that the other one can understand. And that is a feeling of perhaps feeling vulnerable because of the extra weight that they, for example, cannot shake off. Now, both of them, for example, look more or less the same in size. So there's a bond there already, right? This instant acceptance of one another, which creates a feeling of belonging and knowing that they will not be rejected because of their weight. Now, what happens when one of them starts to lose weight? It can actually either inspire or trigger the other partner. Now, in most cases, it actually triggers them because the changes in the other partner who now starts to lose weight is causing the other one who does not want to lose weight to feel even more inadequate, right? Because the person that they were able to relate to is now starting to change, right? They're starting to transform into someone that's going to have now different beliefs and values around health, right? So they are now going to start to feel foreign to them. Now, the one losing weight is unintentionally bringing up the other partner's resistance to look at the underlying causes of their excess weight and also their fear of change. Now, the fear of change is normally related to, for example, fear of changing coping mechanisms that are now used to serve a person in the past, and also now a fear of not belonging somewhere. So, when you live in fear, you learn to cope with it. You build your lifestyle and your relationship dynamics around it. And that is why it is so hard to heal and to also let go of fears. And because it means change. And it means change in a big and an impactful way. That will also now, of course, have a powerful ripple effect into every single aspect in your life. So, how to make this graceful and how to recognize it? Step 1, accept change. Change is part of life, right? And that is the reason why you don't like change. Could also be because you didn't have control over how certain changes played out in your life in the past. So, decide consciously today that you are from now on in control of changes in your life that are taking place. Step 2, recognize whether you have people in your life who give you space to change, or do they change their attitude towards you when you are starting to change something about yourself or your life that, for example, would not be affecting them. However, they seem to somehow make it about them. Now, it is important to recognize if you have healthy support or not, right? Clear communication can do wonders in these moments, especially if there are people in your life who are not supportive. Now, if that is the case, explain and communicate what kind of support you need, and do this with ease and grace, because how you deliver your message can greatly impact the outcome of it. Now, sometimes we have to communicate what we need. Right, of course, right? You need to communicate what you need, but it's not always obvious to the other person. And that is why it is important that you learn and understand to start putting in the effort to communicate what you need. Now, even if they are close to you, right? Step 3, have a strong relationship with yourself, right? Because the stronger you are connected to your own sense of self, the more confident you will feel. Right? You will start to feel less inclined to sacrifice your identity and also your growth for the sake of acceptance. Now, if you have people in your life with whom you, for example, have changed yourself to so much to fit in with, then ask yourself, what do these people emotionally give me that I cannot feel on my own? And once you have the answer to that, I would highly recommend that you go through my free online healing guided session to heal the blocks that stops you from having a healthy relationship with yourself. So you can have free access to this healing session at guidedhealingsession.com. So, final conclusion and message: embrace the fear of a positive attitude. Embrace change, right? Because it will bring you closer to where you want to be. Now, sometimes you just have to laugh at fear, right? Because in most cases, fear do not deserve your full attention. It just does not deserve the quality of life that you're giving it. And it definitely does not deserve your future. Now, if you feel stuck and controlled by your fears, then I would highly recommend that you go through my free online healing course, healingyourfears.com. And guys, thank you for joining me. And until next time, be the light that you are. Hi guys, thank you for joining me, and remember to grab your copy of Metaphysical Anatomy on Amazon, 679 medical ailments. And I also wrote about the psychosomatic root causes of that, and I'm spoiling you because I even added key points for you to start looking at important questions that you can ask yourself to start improving your quality of life. And also remember to catch me on Instagram, Evette Rose, 1 with the digit 1, and Metaphysical Anatomy on our Facebook fan page. Bye guys!